I bet you didn't know that in the 90s, Reba fought a bunch of giant worms and saved a whole town in Nevada. Hey there, welcome to another edition of the Sunday Scaries. I'm your host, Mike, and please subscribe and like if you're new to the channel. And today we're going to be talking about Tremors, and this is a creature feature that was made back in the 90s, and this will be a spoiler-free review, but this is one of my favorite movies actually from the 90s, and I think a lot of people have forgotten about it, and a lot of people have not seen it, especially more in my generation. So Tremors is actually one of my favorite movies, and it's about these two handymen in this small fictional town in Nevada. And for years and years and years, they've been trying to leave the town. They've had all these plans and they never act on them. And they're a couple of goofballs. And finally, on the day they decide to leave, they start discovering dead people as they're trying to drive out of this remote town that's in the middle of nowhere. And
now, damn it, Valentine, you never plan ahead.
They keep having to go back and forth from how far they get out of town, back to the town to tell them, hey, so-and-so's died. And it turns out there's these giant worms that are trying to eat people, and no one knows how they got there, and they come in from the ground and open up their mouths, and they have all these tentacles, and they pull people down and eat them. And it turns out there's these giant worms, they're coming up from the ground, and they're eating people. No one knows how they got there, and it's just a big mess as these worms start coming for the town and trying to kill the town people. Now, there's several things I love about this movie. One, the characters. You start with Earl and Val, and they're just hilarious. You know, they're rock, paper, scissorings for every task that they want to do. They lecture each other, going back and forth on how they should be doing different things. You have this young seismologist out of school, and Kevin Bacon's character, Valentine, when he hears there's a new scientist in town, and it's a girl. And as they're driving up to meet her for the first time, he's hoping that she's blonde and beautiful and, you know, has all these features that he wants. And, you know, she's this dorky, dark-haired brunette scientist with all the sunscreen over her face, even though she's a complete sweetheart. And, you know, he's so devastated. You know, just little things like that that the characters say and do are a lot of fun. And then you have the two gun fanatics played by Michael Gross and famous country singer Reba, who also did some of the music for the movie. And they specifically chose to live in this town for geographical isolation. They have this whole wall just full of different guns, and they're just real rednecks living off the grid. Want to be complete isolationists, and when they find out there are worms in the ground or there's this problem, they actually get excited because they want to hunt whatever's killing people and figure out the problem. You have the fun shop owner in the town. You have the ranchers, the dumb town teenage kid who's playing pranks on people. And so it just comes together with this fun group and cast of characters mixed with this kind of mystery of these monsters, where did they come from? The special effects in this movie are really good, and the film's just a blast, and this is one of those movies you can rewatch a ton and have a lot of fun with. And so the first theme in this movie that I think a lot of people can relate to, and what makes the main two characters so lovable, is they're aspiring to try to make something out of their lives and they don't know how. For a while now, they've been stuck in this lifestyle that they don't really want to live, and they're just trying to figure out a way to better themselves. And once, of course, they get themselves motivated, all hell breaks loose. But, you know, you can really relate to those characters, as a lot of us have been in different periods in our lives where we're trying to better ourselves. Maybe it's coming slower than we want. Maybe it was high school, maybe it was college, maybe it was post-college when we were trying to find that first big job. Just different periods of life bring different challenges, and you know, you can really root for somebody that's trying to better themselves, even if they don't quite know how and they're not quite hitting their goals. This movie borders on comedy and horror, and there's elements of both in this, and I love the comedy a ton, but I also do love some of the elements of horror. And one of the main elements of horror you have is that geographical isolation. You know, the town is completely on dirt. There's not a bunch of concrete roads anywhere, and they're miles and miles from the nearest big city. It's hard to even make calls. This movie took place in the 90s, so cell phones, you know, they aren't as easy to access as they are today. And a lot of people probably can't relate to this who have been born in the past 20 years because all they've ever known is, cell phones in their lives. But I remember in the 90s, it was much harder to make a call than it is today. But I love that kind of aspect of these worms move through dirt. They can come up and grab you at any time. And there's not a lot of places to run and hide. And that just makes the atmosphere kind of creepy. Anytime someone's walking on the ground, you're not sure if they're gonna track the worms through their footsteps and if they're gonna get, sucked down in the ground and eaten. And that leads to kind of my third main theme in this. It's really fun to have a monster that you can't see. And the film Jaws does this actually really effectively because the shark broke down when they're filming that movie, so they kind of had to use the camera and not have any monster in it, and they just had music and they had movement under the water, and you never really knew where the shark was when you're watching the film. This kind of has that aspect in a lot of ways, and even though you can kind of see the worms moving through the dirt when they're going full speed, a lot of times you can't, and they can't get through big boulders, they can't move through rocks, so when our heroes are hiding on a big rock and trying to figure out is the worm still on the ground or not. They'll touch the ground with a stick or something. All of a sudden the worm will come up out of nowhere and just grab it. And it's, a ton of fun to have that atmosphere as far as a horror element goes. And it is just fun to look back on this movie because Reba is in it. And I know so many country fans, especially since I live here in Nashville, Tennessee, and they'll be huge Reba fanatics, and I'll be like, oh, did you ever see that one movie she was in, with the giant worms, Tremors in the 90s? And no one knows what I'm talking about. And it's so funny because she's so good in this movie as a redneck and a gun fanatic. And at the end of the movie, they play a bunch of her music that she did for it. And it's typical like Reba, Western. I don't think I've heard any of the songs ever in one of the country bars around here, but just looking back, it is a ton of fun with her and just some of the other actors in this film. Great cast. This is not a very deep movie as far as themes or super intense horror or anything you're gonna reflect on after, but it's also just a super fun movie, very well paced.
Them grab boys don't kill him, I will.
And again, it's very rewatchable, so I highly recommend this movie. And that gets into my overall ranking. So again, not a super deep movie, but it's a good movie. I give it a 3.5 out of 5. I definitely can't call it a classic or timeless piece that is a must-see, but it's kind of there. Like, this is one that more horror fans should have seen, and just more people that are into movies should have seen. If you're not super into horror, but kind of love a good action movie with some comedy and just little tints of horror, I highly recommend this movie. Again, 3.5 out of 5. It will not be a waste of your time. And as far as the fun meter goes, I give it a 4.5 out of 5. This is a great ride. I don't know too many people have seen this movie and did not walk away and say, hey, that was entertaining. Thanks for the recommendation, Mike. And there's a reason this spawned a whole franchise. Granted, they're not featured films in the theaters for the most part. They're all straight to DVD or VHS. Granted, that's how long ago these movies started being made in the early 90s. They're fun films. This is definitely the strongest in the whole group, though I do highly recommend the second one too, which I'll probably do a review on at some point. But again, super fun film. I highly recommend it. And this is one that I would be comfortable showing my kids once they got around 7, 8 years old, though my wife will probably kill me if she made it this far in the video. But, this is a fun, just easy to watch horror action kind of comedy movie. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Again, please subscribe and leave a comment. Let me know if you like Tremors, and if you haven't seen it, go and watch it. Like I said, terrific film. And with that said, all I know is tomorrow I don't have giant worms trying to eat me, so work doesn't seem quite that bad.